Naledi Dlamini had stood in 3 separate fittings, turned slowly on a raised platform while a seamstress pinned and adjusted and murmured approvals, and she had looked at herself in the mirror each time with the expression of a woman completing a project she had managed well. The dress was perfect. The venue was perfect. The flowers, proteas and white roses, because her mother had cried when she saw the arrangement and happy crying was a good omen, were perfect. The man waiting at the end of the aisle was, by every measurable standard, perfect. Kwame Asante was 41, Ghanaian South African, a cardiovascular surgeon at Netcare Mill Park, the kind of man who made other women quietly revise their standards simply by being in a room. He was kind. He was steady. He remembered the names of everyone who mattered to her. He had asked her father's blessing in Zulu, haltingly and with great effort, and her father had shaken his hand for a very long time afterward. Naledi was 34. She had spent years building a version of her life that looked exactly like this morning: the suite at the Oyster Box Hotel in Umhlanga, the dress, the bouquet, her 3 best friends fussing over her veil, her mother's hands trembling slightly as she fastened the clasp of the pearl necklace that had been in the family for 2 generations. Everything was as it should be. And at 10:47 a.m., with the ceremony starting at 1 o'clock, Naledi Dlamini picked up her phone, opened a conversation she had not initiated in for years, and typed 7 words. "If you still want me, come and get me now." She pressed send. Then she turned off the screen, set the phone face down on the dressing table, and looked at herself in the mirror for a long time. The woman looking back at her was beautiful. She was also, for the first time in 8 months, completely honest. Before we go any further, I need you to drop something in the comments right now. Just from those opening lines alone, are you Team Naledi, or are you already frustrated with her? Tell me. Because this story is about to ask you some very uncomfortable questions about love, loyalty, and the promises we make to ourselves before we make them to other people. I'll be back in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button. Let's get into this story. Hayan Yoon arrived in Pretoria in January of 1998, when he was 7 years old and Naledi was 7 3/4, and she informed him of those 3/4 with great seriousness on the afternoon they met. His father, a trade attaché at the Korean embassy, had been assigned to South Africa for 3 years. The Yoon family moved into the house across the road from the Dlaminis on a Tuesday, and by Thursday, Hayan had knocked on the door because his mother had sent him with a box of Korean pear biscuits as a neighborly gesture, and the door had been opened by a girl with 2 puffs and a gap between her front teeth who looked at the biscuits and then at him and said, "What are these?" "Bay chips," he said. His English was careful and deliberate, each word placed like a foot on a stepping stone. "Pear. They are pear flavor." She took one, tried it, and looked at him with an expression he would spend the next 27 years trying to recreate on her face: pure, uncomplicated delight. "You can come in," she said, as if she were the one doing him a favor. He came in. He did not, in any way that counted, ever fully leave. They were the kind of childhood friends that adults smiled at and elders prayed over, inseparable in the way that children are before they learn that the world has opinions about who belongs with whom. They did homework at her kitchen table, and watched Korean dramas on his family's satellite television, and argued loudly about everything and agreed, silently, about the things that mattered. He taught her to say sarangi correctly, and she laughed every time, at the way his face went careful and patient when she mispronounced it. She taught him to make samp and beans, and her grandmother watched from the doorway with a look on her face that nobody commented on. He was quiet in the way that deep water is quiet, not empty, just still, with a great deal happening underneath the surface. She was loud in the way that sunlight is loud, generous and warm and impossible to ignore. They complemented each other so precisely that their teachers mentioned it in the way that teachers do when they have noticed something they cannot quite name. 3 years became 4. The embassy extension was granted. Hayan's father was kept in Pretoria, and the house across the road remained occupied, and the friendship deepened into something that had no good category. At 11, he told her she was his favorite person. At 12, she told him she would be sad forever if he ever left. At 13, they both understood something they were too young to have words for. At 14, his father was recalled to Seoul. The last night was a Tuesday in March, and they sat on the wall outside her house in the Pretoria evening heat, and neither of them spoke for a long time. The jacarandas were blooming, that violent, impossible purple that turns Pretoria streets into something from a dream in October, except it was March and these were different trees, but Naledi always associated that evening with purple anyway, the way memory reassembles itself around feeling rather than fact. "I'll write," he said. "I know," she said. "I'll come back. For a visit." "I know." Another silence. "Hey-in." She said his name the way she always said it, 2 clean syllables, perfectly pronounced, because she had practiced until she got it right, and he had never once told her how much that meant to him. "Yes. Don't forget me." He looked at her for a long moment. He was 14, and she was 14, and the world was enormous and unkind, and he had no language adequate to what he wanted to say. "That would not be possible," he said finally, in the formal, careful English he used when the thing he was saying was important. "It would simply not be possible." They wrote for 2 years. Long letters first, then emails, then the emails became shorter, then the rhythm became irregular, then the silences stretched, then life, in the way that life does, moved through both of them and rearranged what had been. By 19, they had not spoken in 8 months. By 21, it was 2 years. By 24, Naledi had stopped checking whether he had read her last message. She told herself this was growing up. It was growing up. It was also a loss she had never given herself permission to properly mourn. She was 26 when she saw him again. A conference. Not the romantic kind, a regional trade and investment summit in Cape Town, the kind of event that fills convention centers with lanyards and PowerPoint presentations, and the specific exhaustion of scheduled networking. Naledi was there representing the commercial law firm, where she had recently made associate. Hayin was there, she would learn this later, as part of the Korean delegation advising on bilateral investment frameworks. She saw him from across a registration queue. He was 26, which meant he had grown into his height, and his quiet in a way that was frankly unreasonable. He was wearing a suit and looking at his phone with the same expression of careful attention he had worn at 14, when he was working through a maths problem, and something in Naledi's chest did a thing it had not done in years. She considered, very seriously, turning around and going back to her hotel. She did not turn around. "Hey-in," she said. He looked up. The expression on his face in the 3 seconds before he reassembled it was something she would think about for the next 8 years. She catalogued it precisely, the way a lawyer catalogues evidence, surprise, yes, but underneath it something more fundamental. Something that looked, unmistakably, like the expression of a person who had just been given back something they had stopped believing they would see again. "Naledi," he said. And then they both stood there for a moment like two people who have forgotten all the words for ordinary situations, and then they laughed at exactly the same time, and it was easy after that, it was always easy, that was always the terrible and wonderful thing about them. They had dinner that night and talked for 5 hours. He was based in Seoul, working in international trade policy. She was in Johannesburg, building her legal career. They had both become, in the years between 14 and 26, very competent versions of who they were supposed to be. At the end of the evening, standing outside the restaurant with the Cape Town waterfront lit behind them, there was a moment, she felt it and she saw him feel it, and she knew he saw her feel it, where the question was available. Where something could have been said. Neither of them said it. He was leaving in 2 days. She was leaving in 3. Both of them had lives that were fully assembled elsewhere. She told herself the moment passed because the timing was wrong. The truth, which she would not admit for another 8 years, was that she was afraid. And so was he. And fear in 2 careful people is very efficient at doing the work of silence. Kwame proposed on a Friday evening in July, on the deck of a restaurant in the waterfront with the lights on the water, and a ring that had belonged to his grandmother, and a speech that made her cry genuinely and completely. She said yes. She meant it. This is important. She looked at Kwame Asante in that moment, steady, warm, entirely present, a man who had chosen her deliberately and with full knowledge of who she was, and she said yes, and she meant every letter of it. She called her mother from the car. Her mother screamed. Her father got on the phone, and his voice was thick in a way it rarely was. Her friends sent 73 messages in 20 minutes. The world confirmed, loudly and from every direction, that this was the right thing, and she had done well and everything was as it should be. That night, lying in the dark after Kwame had fallen asleep, she picked up her phone. She opened Hayen's contact. The last message between them was from 11 months ago, a brief exchange after she'd seen an article about Korean trade policy and sent it to him as a joke, and he'd responded with 3 words and a laughing emoji, and then the conversation had simply stopped the way their conversations sometimes did, dropping into silence without either of them choosing it. She stared at the contact for a long time. She did not send a message. She put the phone down. She told herself the feeling she was managing was simply the natural strangeness of a major life transition. She told herself this with the same precision she brought to legal arguments, and like the best legal arguments it was partially true and carefully constructed around the part that wasn't. The engagement was announced. The date was set, 14 months away, which gave them time to plan properly. The venue was booked. The dress consultation was scheduled. Life moved forward. Life was very good at moving forward. He came back to South Africa 8 months before the wedding. A posting. 6 months, based in Johannesburg, advising on a bilateral investment treaty. She found out through LinkedIn. She was not following him, but a mutual connection commented on a post and the algorithm, with its particular indifference to human complexity, surfaced it for her on a Tuesday morning. She looked at the post for a moment. Then she closed the app and sent 3 emails and made a phone call, and did not think about it again. Or tried not to. He messaged her that evening. I am in Joburg for a while. Heard you're getting married. Congratulations. A pause. Then, can we have coffee? I'd like to meet him. If that's okay. She showed the message to Kwame. This was important to her. She did not want to carry anything private. Kwame read it, said of course, invite him to dinner, and went back to his medical journal, which was the kind of uncomplicated response that made her love him and also, in that moment, made the feeling in her chest more complicated rather than less. They had coffee first. Just the 2 of them, which had not been the plan, but Kwame had a surgery run long and messaged to say he'd join later and later kept moving. The coffee was 2 hours. It was effortless in the way that things are effortless when they are built on 20 years of knowing someone, and it was excruciating in the same way, because effortlessness with the wrong person at the wrong time is its own kind of pain. He asked good questions about Kwame. She answered them honestly. He listened with the particular quality of attention he had always had, total and unhurried, as if whatever she was saying was the only thing worth hearing. He sounds like a good man, Hayen said. He is, she said. He's a very good man. A pause. Are you happy? He asked. The question was simple. The simplest possible question. She had been asked it 50 times in the past 8 months by people who loved her. Yes, she said. He nodded. He looked at his coffee cup. She looked at the table between them, the small distance of it, the way some distances stay the same size no matter how much time you put either side of them. Good, he said. That's what matters. They talked for another hour. Kwame texted that the surgery had extended, and he would miss the coffee but please apologize to Hayen. She passed on the apology. Hayen said please don't worry, another time. There was not another time. Not all 4 of them together. But Hayen was in Johannesburg for 6 months, and she and Hayen were friends, and pretending otherwise would have been dishonest to everyone including Kwame, who knew about the friendship and trusted her without making it into a thing. Kwame's trust was, in its generosity, its own kind of weight. It happened 3 months before the wedding. They were at a dinner, a group of her colleagues, casual, a restaurant in Santon, and Hayin had been included because he'd become part of the peripheral social world the way old friends do when geography allows it. The evening was easy and loud and the wine was good, and at some point the group migrated to a rooftop bar and then gradually, the way evenings do, contracted until it was just the two of them at a corner table with the Johannesburg skyline behind them. She was talking about the wedding preparations, the seating chart, the catering decision they couldn't finalize, the way her mother and Kwame's mother had very different opinions about the order of traditional ceremonies, and she was mid-sentence when she looked up and found him watching her with an expression that stopped her words entirely. Not dramatically. Quietly. The way a sentence stops when a word fails. "What?" she said. "Nothing," he said. "Then, I'm sorry. Keep going." Hayin. He looked at his glass. The city hummed below them. A car alarm started somewhere and then stopped. "There are things," he said carefully, "that I have been not saying for a very long time." He paused. "I'm going to continue not saying them, because you're getting married in 3 months, and you're happy and Kwame is a good man, and none of this is." He stopped again. "I just wanted you to know that the not saying is a choice. Not an absence." Naledi sat with that for a moment that lasted several years. "Hayin. You don't have to say anything," he said. "I'm not asking for anything. I'm not, this is not that. I just couldn't let you walk into that wedding without you knowing that everything I didn't say at 14, and at 26, and every time in between, it wasn't because it wasn't there." The city below them was indifferent and beautiful. The wine in her glass caught the light. "Why are you telling me this now?" she said. Her voice was very steady. She was a lawyer. "Because in 3 months it becomes genuinely impossible," he said. "And I'd rather you know, even if it changes nothing, than carry it alone forever." She looked at him for a long time. "And what exactly is it?" she said. "Say it plainly." He met her eyes. "I have loved you," he said, "in some form, since I was 7 years old. And I have spent most of my adult life making peace with the fact that love is not always sufficient or timely, or, I've made that peace. I have. I'm not here to dismantle your life, Naledi. I would never. You know I would never." "I know," she said. "I just needed you to know." She nodded. Her hands were very still in her lap, which was what her hands did when she was working very hard not to let them move. "I need to go home," she said. "Yes," he said. She went home. Kwame was asleep. She lay in the dark beside him and stared at the ceiling for 3 hours, listening to his breathing, even, steady, the breathing of a man who had done nothing wrong, and she understood, with the clarity of someone who has finally stopped arguing with the evidence, exactly what she was in. She was in love with 2 people. Not equally. Not in the same way. Not without enormous complication. But she was in a bridal suite with a wedding in 8 months, and she was in love with a man she had known since she was 7 years old, and the fact that she also loved Kwame, genuinely, truly, completely in several important ways, did not cancel the other thing. It just made everything cost more. She did not speak to Hayin for 6 weeks after that evening. He did not push. He simply waited, the way he had always waited, with the patience of someone who understood that some things cannot be rushed without breaking. The morning of the wedding arrived the way mornings do, without asking anyone's permission. Naledi had slept for hours. She was extraordinarily good at performing composure, which was a professional skill that had never felt more like a liability. By 7 a.m. she was in the bridal suite at the Oyster Box, and her mother was there, and her 3 best friends, and a makeup artist, and a photographer doing candid getting-ready shots, and the room was full of love, actual, genuine, warm love, and she moved through it performing herself with professional precision. Her mother fastened the pearl necklace and held her face in both hands, and looked at her with the look that only mothers have, the one that sees everything. "You're quiet," her mother said. "I'm calm," Naledi said. Her mother looked at her for another moment. She was a retired teacher. She had spent 30 years reading the faces of people who were telling her partial truths. Naledi. Mama. She took her mother's hands gently. I'm calm. I promise. Her mother held her gaze, then nodded, and kissed her forehead, and stepped back. Then Decca, her oldest friend, put champagne in her hand. The photographer captured her laughing at something. The room moved around her in the pleasant blur of a morning that had been planned to the minute, and she played her part in it with a thoroughness that was its own kind of heartbreak. At 10:30, the room cleared briefly, photographer stepping out, friends going to check on the flowers, mother going to speak to the coordinator, and Naledi sat alone at the dressing table in her dress, looking at herself. She looked at herself for a long time. Then she picked up her phone. She did not think about it carefully. She had been thinking about it carefully for 8 months, and careful thinking had not resolved anything. She typed the words the way you do something you have already decided in a part of yourself that precedes decision. If you still want me, come and get me now. She sent it. She put the phone face down on the table. The room was very quiet. Outside, the Indian Ocean was doing what it does, vast and continuous and entirely unconcerned with the specifics of human crisis. Naledi Dlamini sat in 200,000 rand worth of ivory silk, and waited to find out what she was made of. Hayin saw the message at 10:52. He was in his hotel room on the 4th floor of the same building, because he had been invited to the wedding. This was the detail that the universe had apparently found necessary, by Kwame, who had finally met him at a dinner 2 months ago and liked him immediately because Kwame was the kind of man who liked people without suspicion, and who had said afterward to Naledi that he understood now why she spoke of him the way she did. Hayin had almost declined the invitation. He had written the decline message twice. Both times he had not sent it. He had told himself this was because declining would have required an explanation, and any explanation honest enough to justify declining would cause harm. He had told himself he could attend a wedding as a friend and wish them well, and that would be that. He had been at this hotel since yesterday, and he had slept approximately as well as Naledi had, which is to say barely. He was sitting on the edge of the bed in his suit jacket and dress shirt, not yet fully dressed, tie on the bed beside him, looking at nothing, when the notification appeared. He read it. He read it again. He set the phone down on the bed. He stood up. He walked to the window. The ocean was outside his window too, same ocean, different floor. He looked at it for what felt like a long time, and was probably 45 seconds. Then he picked up the phone, and read the message a third time. 7 words. No punctuation. No explanation. No question mark, which meant, and he knew her, he knew exactly how her mind worked, she was not asking a question. She already knew the answer to the question. What she was sending was a door. The question was whether he would walk through it. He thought about Kwame Asante, who had shaken his hand warmly at dinner, and asked thoughtful questions about trade policy, and who was downstairs right now, or perhaps already at the venue, a good man waiting for a woman he loved. He thought about what it would mean to walk through that door. The disruption. The pain. The way this morning would become a story that all of them would carry forever, not tidily or without cost. He thought about a wall in Pretoria in March, 20 years ago, and 2 children sitting in the jacaranda evening, and one of them saying "Don't forget me," and the other saying it would not be possible. He thought about a rooftop in Sandton and the things he had said and the things she had not said, but that had been fully legible in her hands, held very still in her lap. He thought about the last 8 months, and what it had cost him to sit in a pew at someone else's wedding for a woman he had never stopped. He stopped thinking. He picked up his jacket. He put it on. He looked at himself in the mirror once, briefly, the way you look at yourself before something that cannot be undone. Then he walked out of the room. He did not run. Running would have been the wrong tempo for what this was. He took the stairs because the elevator was occupied and time was a consideration, and he climbed 3 floors with the deliberate pace of a man who has made a decision and is now simply executing it. The corridor of the bridal floor was empty, white walls, patterned carpet, the sound of the ocean faint through the building. He found the suite. He had not known which room it was. He had asked at the front desk with a calm he did not feel, and the staff member had begun to explain that guests of the bridal party were not. "Her name is Naledi Dlamini," he said. "Please." Something in his face or his voice accomplished what his words didn't. The staff member looked at him for a moment, then quietly told him the room number. He stood outside the door. He was 34 years old. He had spent his professional life navigating international frameworks and billion-dollar negotiations, and the exquisite diplomacy required to make governments agree with each other. He had, by any external measure, become a man who was very good at the world. He had never been, in any version of himself across any amount of time, good at this particular door. He knocked. Inside the suite, Naledi heard the knock. She had been sitting at the dressing table for 11 minutes since sending the message. She had heard her phone buzz twice, then Decca, checking on something, and she had not looked at it. She had sat with her hands in her lap and the ocean outside the window, and the extraordinary stillness of a person who has set something in motion, and is now simply waiting for it to arrive. The knock was quiet. 3 times. His knock. She had not heard it in 20 years and she knew it immediately, the way you know certain sounds regardless of the gap between hearings. She stood up. She crossed the room. She opened the door. He was in his suit, tie slightly imperfect, and his face had the expression she had catalogued at the conference in Cape Town 8 years ago, the one that looked like being given back something you had stopped believing you would see again. They looked at each other in the doorway for a moment that had no good unit of measurement. "You came," she said. "You sent," he said. She stepped back. He came inside. She closed the door. They were in the suite of her wedding morning, the dress and the flowers and the champagne, and all the machinery of a life she had built with great care, and they were standing in the middle of it at 11 in the morning, and neither of them spoke for a long moment. "Tell me what you want," he said. Not "what do you want," he said it as a request, gentle and direct, because he needed her to say it plainly, needed it to be her choice, fully, and without any pressure from him. "Tell me clearly." She looked at him. 27 years of knowing him. Every version of him she had carried, 7 years old with pear biscuits, 14 on a wall at dusk, 26 across a conference registration queue, 34 in a rooftop bar saying the things he had spent a lifetime not saying. She looked at Kwame's jacket, hung on the back of the chair. He had left it here last night. She thought about her mother in the next room. About Kwame at the venue, or on his way to it. About 200 people who had bought gifts and made travel arrangements, and were at this moment on their way to witness a marriage. She thought about all of it. Then she looked at Hayin. "I have loved you," she said, very quietly, "since I was 7 years and 3/4 old." He closed his eyes for a moment. Just a moment. "I know," he said. "I know. Naledi, what do you want to do?" "Right here." Pause. "This is the moment. Before I tell you what she decided, I need you to go to the comments right now and tell me what you would do. Would you walk out of that wedding? Or would you send him away, close the door, and marry the good man waiting for you? There is no wrong answer. There's just your honest one. Tell me. And if this story has you feeling everything, subscribe. Right now. We're going to the finish. She did not leave the wedding. This is not the ending you expected. It is the true one. She stood in the suite with Hayin for 17 minutes. She cried, which she had not done in months, the real kind, not the performed emotion of someone moving through a ceremony, but the actual grief of a person surrendering something true. He held her hands and did not speak, and did not try to fill the space with anything, because he knew her well enough to know that what she needed was room, not persuasion. When she was finished, she straightened. She took a breath. "I love Kwame," she said. "I know you do," he said. "And I love you. I have always loved you. And they are not the same love, and they are not the same life, and she stopped. I made a promise to him. I made it with full knowledge. I made it because I wanted to. I know, he said. And if I walk out of this wedding, I will spend the rest of my life wondering whether I did it for you or whether I did it for fear. Whether this is love or whether this is the version of running I have always been most comfortable with. He was quiet for a moment. Those are very different things, he said. Yes, she said. That's why I have to know the difference before I choose. He looked at her. And do you? She was quiet for a long time. The ocean moved outside. I think, she said finally, that I sent that text because I needed to know you would come. Not because I needed you to take me. Just because I needed to know you would. She looked at him. Does that make any sense? Yes, he said, and his voice was very even, which was the cost of meaning it. It makes complete sense. I'm sorry, she said. I know what I've just asked you to do, and I know what I'm now saying, and I know that those two things are. Naledi. He said her name the way she had always said his, carefully, exactly, with full attention. Don't apologize to me. Not for this. You needed to know. Now you know. That's enough. She looked at him. Is it? Enough. A pause. Honest. It will have to be, he said. I would rather have been chosen, and not taken than never asked at all. He held her gaze for another moment, then nodded once, a small, complete gesture, the full stop on something, and crossed to the door. You're going to be beautiful, he said without turning around. You already are. He opened the door. He walked out. The wedding was at 1 o'clock. Naledi walked down the aisle at 1:03, because Dendeka had needed 3 minutes to repair a minor issue with the veil, and she walked slowly, the way you walk when you know that each step is permanent. Kwame was at the end of the aisle. When he saw her, his face did the thing faces do when they are simply, uncomplainingly overwhelmed by something true. He pressed his lips together once. He exhaled. He stood up straighter. She reached him. Hi, he said, very quietly. Hi, she said. The officiant began to speak. She told Kwame that evening. Not everything, some things belonged to the person who carried them, but the essential truth, that she had sent a message, that Heian had come, that she had chosen Kwame not by default or by fear but by choice, fully knowing what she was choosing and what she was releasing. Kwame listened. He was very still throughout. When she finished, he sat in the silence for a long moment. Are you telling me, he said carefully, because you want out? Or because you needed me to know? Because I needed you to know, she said. Because I don't want to start the rest of my life carrying something I didn't tell you. Another silence. Longer. He didn't come to the ceremony, Kwame said. No. He left. Yes. Kwame nodded slowly. He looked at his hands. He was a surgeon, his hands were the most honest part of him, the part that worked in the actual dark of people's bodies and fixed what could be fixed. He was not a man given to self-deception. I need some time to think, he said. I know. I'm not saying it's over. I'm saying I need time. I know, she said. Take whatever you need. She meant it. She had spent a morning learning the difference between love and fear, and one of the things she had learned was that love does not panic. Love gives time. Heian left South Africa 6 weeks later, at the end of his posting. He sent a message the night before his flight. Safe travels through your life. I mean that without reservation. She read it and held the phone against her chest for a moment. Then she wrote back, same. Without reservation. A year passed. Then 2. She and Kwame rebuilt, not the same architecture they had started with, but something sturdier, the kind of structure that can only be built by 2 people who have looked directly at difficulty and decided to stay anyway. There were hard months and then easier months, and then the kind of ordinary days that constitute a life, full of small choices and small kindnesses, and the gradually deepening knowledge that choosing someone repeatedly, on purpose, is not the diminished version of love, it is the real one. She thought of Hayan sometimes. She thought he probably thought of her. This was not a wound. It was a door she had opened and looked through, and then closed, gently, completely, knowing what was on the other side and choosing the side she was on. On a Tuesday in March, she received a message. The jacarandas are blooming here. They reminded me of Pretoria. I hope you're well. She looked at the message for a long moment. Outside her window, the Johannesburg evening was doing what evenings do, going gold at the edges, becoming something beautiful without effort. She wrote back. I'm well. Genuinely. I hope you are too. She pressed send. Then she put the phone down and went back to the kitchen where Kwame was making dinner badly and asking her opinion on every step, which was one of his habits that irritated her, and that she had quietly decided she could not live without. She leaned in the doorway and watched him. You're going to burn that, she said. I know what I'm doing, he said, which was demonstrably untrue. She laughed. The real kind. And the evening came in through the windows and the city made its noise below them, and the life she had chosen, consciously, at cost, with full knowledge, held her without apology. Some loves, she had learned, are the kind you fight for. Some loves are the kind that show you what you value by asking you to release them. Both are real. Both are necessary. Both leave marks. The difference is in what those marks build. And that is the end. But before you go, I need the comments. Right now. Was Naledi right to stay? Was sending that text the most honest thing she ever did, or the most selfish? And what about Hayan, did he get justice, or did he get used? I want every opinion, every take, every strong feeling you have. Drop it below. And if this story moved you, if you felt Naledi on that floor, or Hayan in that stairwell, or Kwame at the end of that aisle, then you already know what this channel is about. Stories that don't take the easy way. Characters who cost you something. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Tell someone who needs a story today. I'll see you in the next one.